welcome to today's video. Today I'm talking about the colored neckline. So we're going to be doing the Peter Pan color in this class. So let's say this is my fabric. I want to actually get a stencil out or a draft out before I transfer it onto the actual fabric I'll be using for the garment or for the demonstration. So I'm going to put it on a fold, and just like you always know, when you put it on a fold, this here becomes your center front. Okay, like you hear them say, this becomes the center front or the CF like they say. So I'll draw in or square out my neckline, and then we take it from there. For the Peter Pan color, I'm going to be doing it on a round neckline. So I'll square it out here. I'll square it out like, you know, in the other videos, how to square out your neckline. And then with the help of my armhole curve, I'm going to draw out my round neck in shape. Cut it out. Okay. Now remember, don't ever use the same scissors you're using for your paper to cut your fabric. The grain of the paper always makes the scissors blunt. Okay, so I've done that. So this is my actual garment. Now I'm going to get the fabric I'll be using for the Peter Pan color. And so let's say this is the fabric I'll be using for the Peter Pan color. I'm going to put it on a fold as well, just like I did earlier. Or even if I don't want to put on a fold, I want to put on a fold so I'll be able to get two cuts out of it at the same time. You get it? So I'll put it on a fold and trace my neckline out. So I'll trace this neckline onto this paper like that. So this is my neckline, which I'll cut out later. Now I'm going to draw in my Peter Pan color. So this is my shoulder. This is going to be my shoulder, or where the shoulder joint will be. So my Peter Pan color is going to be from here coming this way. Okay, now you determine how wide you want it to be. If you want it to be 2 inches or whatever the length you want it to be, you just take that length round. Now whilst you put in the length, you have to always consider whilst you put in the length, you have to always consider your seam allowances. So I know that my seam allowance is going to be here, just about a quarter of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to put all of that into consideration before I actually cut out my Peter Pan color. And then I also know that I would like to keep another seam allowance at the edge here of about a quarter of an inch here. So in total, after I've finished stitching out putting in all my seam stitches, I'm going to be left with about 2 inches all the way around. And 2 inches isn't bad for a Peter Pan color, but let's increase it up to about, let's cut it at 3 inches. So when I put in a quarter seam allowance in here and a quarter seam allowance out there, I'll be left with 2.5 inches, and I think that should be great for a Peter Pan color. So I'm putting in 3 inches all the way around as I go around, you know, my 3 inches. My 3 inches mark goes all the way around with my 3 inches mark. You're a picture in a frame. I make believe you're next to me, but I know it's not the same. This one, you can always use your armhole curve to help you draw in the curves if you can, or just because you have this stitch in, this markings in, just draw out. Why am I lost in a loveless fantasy when somebody real is waiting out there for me? Why am I looking at? But I know that I want the bottom here to be rounded, so I'm going to go in at about this bit here. But the time has come to face the fact in there a bit. I'm going to try and place my armhole curve at the point that can give me the kind of extension I need at that bottom. I think I'm getting it here, so I'm going to go in and then, so this will actually be my curve, and I think I'm happy with this. So I'm going to cut it out. So as you can see, my Peter Pan is there. I'm just going to split it over in, split into two. And then shape my ends beautifully. We make sure that whatever we have on this side is the same as whatever we have on the other side. This is it, and as you can see, this will be the the front. F is the front, and here too is the front. So when I lay them down, this will be going on that side, this will be going on this side. I'm going to bring my neckline back. So this is my neckline, and that is my Peter Pan color, as you can see. So one on this side and then the other on that side. I hope you can see. I'm going to transfer these markings and cutout onto the actual fabric I'm going to use, and I'll come back in a minute for us to stitch it together, and then you can see it. So step where we're going to actually cut the Peter Pan color out, and this will be my main fabric and this will be my lining fabric. Okay, and I'm going to put right sides of the fabric together. So right sides of the fabric together, because I want to cut it at the same time. Now, if you remember, we put in all our seam allowances before cutting out. So I'm not going to be leaving any seam allowances here because it was all calculated into the actual design. So when I'm stitching, I know that I have to be stitching at 1/4 of an inch off, and then I'll come to the actual size of the pattern color I'm looking for. So that's the shape. As you can see, I'll cut it out, and then I finished cutting for both sides in that one go that I did, and I don't have to cut for the other side again. So what it is now is I'm going to put the right sides together. So this is supposed to be my lining, and this is my main fabric. Actually, when you are doing this kind of color, you have to put an interfacing, or what people call, there are other names people call it, but I think that the right name is interfacing. So you see that fabric, or that has one side shinier, and then you iron it on it and it sticks onto the fabric. That is what I'm talking about, interfacing. But this fabric is quite heavy, so I'll get away with it because it's actually going to give a good backing to my main garment or main fabric. So I'm going to put the right side of the fabric against the right side of the main fabric, and I'm going to stitch around. I'm going to show you in a minute where I'm going to be running my stitches. So I'm going to stitch all the way here, all around here. I'm running my stitch. I'm going to leave this out, and also leave this out because this side is going to join to the shoulder of the garment. It's going to be joining to the shoulder of the garment here. So I'm not stitching this bit. I'm just going to stitch all around here. Let me also say that if you don't actually want to be joining it to, if the design is not to join the Peter Pan color to the shoulder area, you can always narrow your Peter Pan color from here to here. So you're actually catching only this bit, and then there is nothing to join on the shoulder. So the Peter Pan color is actually catches just the neck area, and you don't have any joining on the shoulder. I hope I'm making sense, but for this I would just like to extend it to the shoulder area. So I'm going to stitch here. Don't forget the seam allowance we left was 1/4 of an inch, so I'm stitching at 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And remember, because it's a rounded shape, we have to snip all the way around before we do we iron it out, and then we come and continue from there. So I'll do it for both of them, and then I'll get back to you. So here we are with the collar stitched and snipped, because it's a rounded shape, so we have to snip so that when we turn it over we get a beautiful round shape for the collar. So that is it. As you can see, that is one side. I'm going to actually put an iron to it, iron it properly, and then come. Okay, so this is the Peter Pan color. It's finished. I'm going to attach it to the main body of the garment. I'm going to push it away and bring the main garment back. So we're going to lay it along the neckline. And I'm going to place it on top of it with the right side showing, with the right side in place. So as you can see me do, I hope you can see it properly. I'm going to place it and I'm going to let it overlap a little bit at the center here, so that after everything we don't have a gap like in between it like that. So make sure you're actually pushing them together very close like that. That is what you get in the end. Now remember, you always have to make sure that the size of your Peter Pan color, if you want them to have the same size at the bottom here, they are all equal. And when you do this, when we have this, we are going to next place our bias strip on top of it. So the right side of the bias strip is going to be on top of your Peter Pan color. Remember how we finished a round neckline? It's the same thing with the bias strip. That is what we're going to do now. So that's the method you're going to use to finish off this neckline. So we can either use a bias strip to finish off the neckline, or we can use a facing to finish off the neckline, but I choose to use a bias strip here. The Peter Pan color is going to be between the main garment and then the bias strip. I'm going to lay it over and then run the stitch and then bring it back to show you. So as you can see, I've stitched the bias strip together with the Peter Pan color. That is it. You can see I'm going to wrap it around, hiding the seam allowance, if you remember from what we did with the round neckline finish. If you don't remember it, you can always refer to that video and see it before you come here. Okay, so I'm wrapping my raw seam allowance with the bias strip like that, and then I'll run a stitch to top stitch it. I've done my top stitch. I'm going to turn it over, and this time I'm just going to be lifting the Peter Pan color up before I run my second stitch at the bottom here. Okay, so I'm going to do it like this and then stitch it all the way around, and as I'm going, just lift it and then be stitching it all the way around, so that the Peter Pan color can lie on top at the bottom like that. So I'm going to do that and then bring it back to you. Okay, so as you can see, this is our Peter Pan neckline color finished. From the back you can see it finished, neckline finished beautifully, and then from the front you can also see the neckline finished off beautifully. So we've come to the end of today's class, learning how to do a Peter Pan color for your top bodice, and we hope to do in the next video an asymmetric colored neckline, and we'll see how to do it. So you either run it off at this bottom or make it sharp, so it will look like a V at this point. This can be bigger and this can be smaller. You can keep alternating the design depending on what you want. Actually, this bit can also overlap on a bigger side here, and we'll do a couple of them in other classes for you to have a look. But this basically is the steps for doing a Peter Pan color in any other color or design, a symmetric one or whatever one you want to do. This is actually the way to do it. If you live in Nottingham and you're a woman and you're unemployed and want to be part of any of our sessions, you can get in touch with us. You can go onto our website, which is www.skilledhandsorganization.org, and you can check us out on everything that we do, and you can pick a form online, fill in, and then submit it. So we do bag making, we do soap making, we do millinery, jewelry making, and dressmaking. So we actually do 5 courses for women, and you can be part of this program if you want. And don't forget to also give us a like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Until we see you again in the next class, have a lovely day. Bye.